Hello Martin, I just wanted to get back to you with your plan review service. So I've been working on this, so I started sort of yesterday and last night and having a really good think about it, looking through everything that you provided, and I've spent most of the day on it today, so it's over to you now. I'm going to talk you through sort of some suggestions that I have and ways that we can sort of tighten up this plan for your new garden layout. So thank you for this. This is your plan, obviously provided. And what I did was I took this as a basis and drew it all out properly to scale, so that all our measurements that you'd provided here were correct and to scale. And then I took the essence of your design and just thought about how I could sort of tighten it up a little bit. The main thing that sort of jumped out to me was that the first thing was that you've got a really good, strong idea here, and actually going on a 45-degree angle on the diagonal is a really good use of the space. It just sort of pushes those boundaries out, and it's quite a good design trick actually. So really well done for that. But where we can sort of tweak it and sort of improve it is that at the moment all the direction of travel, if you're thinking about the sort of eye line and where it takes you, if you're looking out from your bifold doors, everything goes off from right to left, and you've taken this strong diagonal line right up to the corner. And what that does actually is it draws the eye, when you're sitting here or sort of looking out, it will draw the eye up straight up into this top left hand corner, where we haven't actually got really anything of interest or anything to look at. So that was the first thing. The other thing is just to sort of look at proportions, and looking at this little built-in seating area at the top here, which is great. We need a little bit more balance from this sort of big area to this area. I sort of felt immediately that I could help you by giving you the sort of opposite direction of flow. So where we've got the 45-degree angle going to the left, we also need the counter angle in some of the design going off to the right, just so that you've got the sort of whole thing in balance and proportion. Hopefully this will all make sense when I show you what I've done. The other thing about taking everything off to the left here and having your water feature, I can see you've marked out wall with water feature, and that does make sense because it would drop down onto the lawn, which is a nice idea. I sort of picture that perhaps you like the feature wall like this kind of thing. I think this was one that I've done in a client's garden in Harlington. This kind of split stone effect. I think I saw it in one of your images. This wasn't actually a water wall, but it was a feature wall, but it's just as good with water running down it. I think perhaps that's the sort of thing perhaps you had in mind. But anyway, whatever that kind of water feature is, again, it's going off at this angle, and if it's dropping down, it won't actually be seen from the house. So your main kind of really cool feature, if you like, would really be mainly viewed and seen if you were sitting over on this side and looking back towards it. So I really wanted to sort of make more of your view from the house and the house lines windows, especially as you've got these great big lovely bifold doors. And what's the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about? Just sort of linking areas together really, and creating a bit of a flow. Oh, and the other thing was to create some kind of planting areas. I couldn't see here at all any planting. I wasn't sure where you want to put the planting. Even if you want quite a minimal sort of contemporary and modern garden, you need a little bit of greenery just to make it pop and you know, sort of add in that interest and the height. And I think the big mistake that a lot of homeowners do is push all the planting to the boundaries around the edge. And what I really wanted to do again was to bring some little planting pockets just close to the house, so that you've got, you know, a garden view rather than just paving to look at. So with all that in mind, it's not a whole redesign. It might sound like it at the moment, it's not at all. I'm just going to take this to one side and I'll show you what I've done. In fact, let me reduce this down. and keep that up there in the corner. There we go, that might help. So this is my version that I've been working on. What I did was started playing with the angles. So as I said, let's keep your one up here if we can. As I said, I wanted to keep this, strong diagonal theme that you've got going on, which is really strong. But whenever you've got a 45 degree to the left, it's really important, I feel, to do the equal and opposite off to the right and create that nice right angle shape. So when you do that, obviously you end up with a square sort of shape. So we can really use that to our advantage. And this just means that it's not all just going off on one side. You've got a little bit of directional pull and a bit of interest going off to the other side as well. So I started sort of playing around with how we can sort of build some interlocking shapes and sort of link the areas a little bit better. So let me just zoom into this one. What I've done, you can probably see, is taken the line as you had it off to the left, creating some nice wide steps down, which are great. Big wide steps onto a lower area are really good, even just for you can put some cushions on, you can put some pots on. They end up as somewhere to perch and to sit and have a drink, even as well as the sort of transition from top terrace down to bottom lawn. But you can see by taking a 90 degree angle off your strong diagonal line, we create these little planting pockets, and I thought it would be really interesting to play with the height of those as well, because you've got these different heights in the garden, to create actually a raised little planting area, like a lovely rendered raised blockwork rendered bed, would just really help sort of tie it all together and sort of tie the levels together. You've already got, I know, a little wall going around, a little retaining sort of boundary wall going around the edge. It's almost an extension of that to sort of raise a little area of it. And then I also started playing with sort of bringing a little planting pocket close to the house. So I've created this shape here, and that's where we can bring in just a little bit of greenery and a little platform area, and I'll come back to that in a minute to show you what I'm going to do with that, just so that you've got a focal point right into the garden, in the centre of the garden, and something nice to look out at, rather than it being just all open with greenery all around the edge. And that leads me on to your little seating area at this corner in the fire pit. So what was jarring with me slightly was that we had everything going at the 45 degree, and then suddenly we're back to a 90 degree, and it kind of doesn't, there was something that kind of didn't sit comfortably with me, that it's kind of not quite flowing quite as well as it could. So again, I started playing with shapes and ideas of how we could turn that bench in. That it's a great idea to have built-in seating, but just by turning that also round on the 45 degree, we can play with some interesting shapes with planting pockets behind and create an area for your fire pit area that just kind of links with the whole design. Otherwise it feels like this is our 45 degree area, and then suddenly we tilt and we go, even though you've cut it across like this on the paving, the benching is still kind of round the edge like that. So I hope that makes sense. It kind of just ties it all together. I started playing around then a bit more with levels, and I decided that for this particular design plan review, I would in fact go to 3D modelling. Just because you've got all these different levels, it was helping me with the design process to really see how this works. So you've actually got a bit of an extra part of the service here. Oh, this was the photo that I was working from, obviously. Yeah, so I can see what you want to do. You want to come up to bifold door level and then drop down to this patio level, and then we drop down again into the third level down at the lower lawn. So I thought it would be a really good idea to play with a 3D model. Oh, this was something I was looking at actually, just as a side issue. This is showing how lighting picks up if you do want to use that kind of stone walling. It's nice to have a bit of sort of rough stonework next to smooth rendered surfaces. So a raised bed and then sort of the dry stone wall effect kind of walling behind it is really nice. It picks up nicely with lighting. That's one of the jobs from a few years ago. Anyway, let me show you how I developed this even further. You've got a bit more for your money. Right, here we go. So I wanted to see how all these levels would work and really start playing with these shapes. So let me take you on a little bit of a 3D tour. I've built this up into a 3D model just so that we can see how it would all look. First of all, I'm going to take you down as if you're sort of looking through these bifold doors, and you can see that it's going to be really important to have something good and a really good viewpoint and some interest through your windows rather than just a big sort of blank open space. So this is a little spin around of how this could possibly look for you. I'm going off screen a little bit. Let me bring it back in there. So now you've got your hot tub sort of tucked in behind the wall, and actually that's probably as good a place as any for it. Like you said, it's kind of hidden there out of view unless you sort of spin all the way around. So I have kept that there where you suggested, but I'm going to come out and show you how the rest of it looks. So let me just let that catch up a little bit, and perhaps we'll move it along and just focus on this patio area. So this is your top terrace. You've got plenty of room there. I think there's room enough for some kind of dining furniture. I don't know what your furniture is. Some lounging furniture, or that might be a combination kind of set of, you know, comfortable dining seating. The hot tub, perhaps some lounging chairs, steamer chairs. But you can see straight away by just having this raised bed in the corner, it just gives that extra bit of height, a little bit of planting, and perhaps a sort of tall multi-stem shrub or a small, very small tree in the corner there. Just gives you something to draw the eye and to look at. And then it's a really nice trick when you've got steps and different levels to sort of mirror image that and sort of echo that down at ground level or at a lower level. So you've got your top sort of bed here, which would be planted up. It could be really minimal. If you don't want lots of planting and lots to look after, it could be pebbled with just a few structural shrubs, evergreens even. It could just be box balls or grasses, but I've just put in mixed planting shapes so that you can see. But yeah, we've got a sort of higher level here and then a lower little planting pocket there. So it's not just a straight line of hedging that you're looking out onto. I'm going to spin that around so that you can see how that looks from the bottom level. So here we go. So here's the big wide step access. I think rather than keeping just small steps down and having this closed off with a wall, if you can, really go for a big sweep of wide steps across. I just think they're great in a garden with split level. Like I say, you can perch on them, you can sit on them. People might be tempted, if you've got a large gathering, to just sort of sit on the edge and with a drink. And it just opens up the whole space and it creates a really good flow from one level to the other. The other little trick here, it's sort of depicted by a dark grey and then a lighter grey. Obviously the stone is of your choice entirely. I see that you fancy some porcelain tiles, which is great. But it's quite nice to mix up if you choose two sort of contrasting colours. It's quite nice to sort of mix that up and have a little bit of contrast on special features. If it's just the uprisers or on the step treads themselves, it just adds that other extra little bit of interest, so it's not just one huge big area of all paving all the same colour. So I'm going to pan out for you now so you can see how it looks from the other side. Let's swing around and take you on a little tour. Let's leave it here for now actually. Right, so can you see how with little areas of planting we sort of break the space up? I've brought this planting bed, I've filled in some plants there. I've actually gone a little bit overboard. Let's take that one out. Yeah, so you can sort of see how just a little suggestion of planting in this little area close to the house, you know, it just kind of brings the garden back in and sort of surrounds. It's always nice when you've got a seating area to try and surround yourself with planting. It just gives a bit more of a sort of cosy feel as well. So that's a little square there, and it creates this really nice sort of shape down to the second level. And then I've got this little plinth area that was marked on, which I want to show you a suggestion I have there. What I've put here is just to pick out around your patio area a little area on the edge that is possibly on a different contrast stone, like a little porcelain tile, a feature tile with perhaps some pots, some planters. And one idea, if you didn't want to go for the bespoke water wall or feature wall, which can get incredibly expensive, I have to say. I mean, we haven't talked budget, but the sort of bespoke water features that are inbuilt are, you know, it can get really pricey, but you want to include water. This is quite an effective way of doing it. We have there are quite a lot of sort of off-the-shelf water features now. It might not be your thing at all, but I'm just going to show you anyway. This company called Primrose I've used quite a lot of times, and they have these kind of things now off the shelf that a few years ago you couldn't get anything like this. But a sort of water blade feature into a steel trough, you can plant it up behind. It's all completely included for £400. It's unbelievable. They've also got a similar thing in this beautiful Corten steel. Again, might not be your thing. It's very trendy at the moment, this kind of rusted finish. It doesn't come immediately like that, but it would create that sort of that kind of rusted look on the Corten over time. But these kind of features are really cost effective, and so that's a suggestion there that you could go if you didn't want to do a bespoke water feature going down the wall or going down the steps, then something like that there could be actually really effective, and that's what that little area was there. Right, so that takes me onto the corner here, and the other corner. This is how I've kind of adapted from your plan and created your little fire pit area. So again, it was just taking your idea that you already had and just taking it one step further. So you had the idea of built-in seating and the paving going across at an angle. I've just taken it one step further and had the seating going at the 45 degree as well. And it creates this lovely area behind where you can have a raised backrest. Because the thing about inbuilt seating, if you literally just have, you know, a bench seat at 45 centimetres high or something standard bench height, without a backrest, you'll find you just sort of perch there for 5 minutes and you don't really spend that much time there. So if you really think that you'll want to come out here with, you know, lovely perhaps bespoke cushions, blankets, throws, have cosy evenings, perhaps have some lighting in the raised bed and some spike lights either side for uplighters. This is just a really cosy little nook. I've just put two sort of feature shrubs either side and a little plant in pockets and created a sort of bench around. This could be rendered underneath and timber on the top like a hardwood timber, or it could be pebble-filled bullions underneath, gambions even, not bullions, gambions underneath, which are those sort of wire baskets with wooden timber tops. It could be all filled in and all structured timber, or it could even be shuttered concrete and poured, or all rendered just for some soft cushions on top. So there's all kinds of finishes and effects. You could even have underneath here the split stone effect underneath here, but that's all up for you and your landscaper and obviously sort of budget. But I do think having this sort of raised planting area behind would be a really good idea. And it just finishes it off nicely and sort of ties the whole thing together. And lastly, over in this corner, I think we didn't have anything in this corner. I just think to follow the theme, it would be a good idea to cut across again at the 45 degrees, small tree or a multi-stemmed shrub like Amelanchier, something with good season of interest, a few shrubs, just to kind of hide the shed a little bit, just to finish off the garden in that corner and make the whole thing balance. So let me zoom out again and let you see the whole plan. Let's bring it like that and let it catch up. There we go. So hopefully that's kind of achieved everything you want to. As I say, it's the essence of your plan. Let's go back to overhead view. You know, it really is the essence of your plan, with just a few little tweaks and changes and making the whole thing flow. One thing I don't think I mentioned yet actually is that this level change here, I think you had the steps going down at an angle. I've just tidied it up again. I've done everything at this 45 degrees, so it's 45 degree going left to right and right to left, and I think that would be a good idea. I think at this junction it would just be one step level down. I'm not sure if it's two. If it's two, you can put in another step there, past the bifold doors. But again, just a suggestion, doesn't have to be followed through. And this looks a little bit dark. That's just because of the colours that are available to me on my software. But you can, in fact, you know, play around with on the different levels, having a slightly different colour areas on the two different areas, you know. I think it would be a good idea to keep the main terrace and this terrace over here at the fire pit the same, to tie it all in. But there's, you know, clearly lots of things that you can do, lots of different stones available, lots of different textures. It might be that you just go for a slightly darker porcelain, and that you have some sort of detail, little porcelain tiles on the steps, for example, something like that. That could work quite nicely. The other thing is that when you come to lay this paving, again, the whole lay pattern should be on the 45 degree angle. So rather than going straight out from the house, the tiles would in fact be laid, you know, this way across in this sort of pattern. It's not letting me do it now, but just because I've got that on a different setting. But yeah, the whole paving pattern, there we go. The whole paving pattern should be laid like this, in this direction, and it's quite nice to do a staggered brick effect like this with your stones. So that would be the way that I'd suggest laying the paving, and then it just draws the eye out as well over to this corner. Okay, so I hope that helps. Let me know if you'd like any little tweaks and amends and your thoughts, and I can get this plan over to you. It's all to scale from the measurements you gave me. So I worked from, you'd given me this measurement here and across this area here, and it was a very sort of loose and rough measurement up to the hedge line. 10.3 you'd given me, which is what I've done up to the hedge, so that's 10.3 that way, and the whole plan across the sort of usable space across here, 22.6 I think it was, yeah. So that's what I've done across there. So it should all be to scale. For your build, I've drawn in sort of bench and features as standard size. So a bench seat, for example, is 45, which that is. So when this is printed off, it will be at a scale of 1 to 50 on an A3 piece of paper. So you know, it was loose measurements that you gave me. I didn't have, for example, the exact shed measurement, and I didn't have the exact hot tub measurement. But I think all of that can be tinkered with and adapted. I mean, if you want me to be a bit more precise at this stage, you could give me you could give me those, and I can adapt it. So you could give me your hot tub dimensions, the shed, and even actually what I didn't have, but I just took a guess, were the window dimensions and you know, their position along this back wall. So you could, if you wanted to make it more accurate, give me the dimension from this corner of the house here to the first bit of the first bifold, to the end bifold, then that section of wall, that door, to the end of the house. I took a pretty good stab at it, just on sort of standard width. So I sort of went 180 for a double door opening, and I think I made the bifolds. Did I go up to 3? I might have done just 3.5 actually. I've gone bigger, so you might even have bigger. You might have bigger bifolds. So yeah, so you could give me those. And any tweaks and changes, any feedback that you may want to do at this stage. Okay, all the best. Bye for now.